I wanted to come on here and share how I accidentally gave birth to my first son on the toilet, and it was not planned at all. He was a wonderful birth, and therefore I ended up doing the same thing with my second child, which was very planned. And so the story of my first son went like this. So I was in between two of my due dates. They had given me two due dates, and it was smack on the middle of them. And at about 8 p.m. I started having contractions, or what I felt was contractions, and I said to my husband, let's go to bed, and if I get up, I'll let you know when I feel like we need to go to the hospital. So at about 8 p.m, I started feeling that. We went to bed at 9:30, and then I couldn't keep still in the bed at that time, so I got out and I moved about and just did my own thing for a while. And then I remember going and having a shower at about 12:30ish, and after I had the shower, I went and told my husband I think it's time to go. And so we called the hospital and we got the midwife, and we happened to have 3 midwives, so I was meant to be in the birthing centre, and along the way I had 3 different midwives, so it depended which one was going to be on at the time. And the specific midwife that I had, we'd had a couple of little things with her, and she wasn't specifically the one that we were hoping to get. And so when my husband called and he heard it was her, and then she asked if she could talk to me, and she was asking me questions, and then she said to me, well, because you're able to talk to me and answer, I think you should stay at home. And she said come in an hour, and she lived 45 minutes away, and also, well, she thought that if I wasn't dilated properly, then I would have to go back home, and that's not good. So she recommended that I stay at home. And so we did, and I went to the bathroom, and I went to go in the toilet, and the next thing I know, I couldn't get off the toilet. And then what are you doing? So because I couldn't get off the toilet, I delivered our son, and I just remember my husband being on the phone to the ambulance, which is what the midwife had recommended to do, and they were like, what can you see? And I just remember him being like, I can see my son's head. And next thing I knew, I had pulled him up onto my chest, and then they recommended that I be lowered to the floor and wait for the ambulance. And then we went to the hospital. And so my son was born at 1:50 a.m. and in total, it wasn't a very long birth for my first birth, and I had talked to other people who had long births, and also just really painful births. And one of my friends said she had a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 birth, and I didn't experience that. And I believe that it's because my body went with gravity, and when you're sitting on the toilet, your pelvis is in the right place in order to give birth, and I recovered really quickly. I only had a little tiny graze and no tearing or anything like that. I had done a lot of preparation beforehand to... I don't want to open that, darling. I don't know what that is. I had a lot of preparation in my body to make sure it was easy as well. And so when I found out that I was pregnant with my other son, I decided this is how I was going to do it. And I got a lot of people questioning why I would want to do that, and it was just because it was so easy, and also my doctor had said to me that if I had such a quick, easy birth with my first one, that it would probably happen even quicker with my second one. And therefore I was like, well, what's the point anyway? And so with my second son, I got to 40 weeks and 3 days, and so after that they want to induce you, and I didn't want to be induced, so I got what's called a sweep. The midwife just swept around inside my cervix, and that helped bring on labor. And so I ended up delivering Ollie in about 3 hours. I just decided I was going to try doing it in the bath, but thinking he might be a bit of a water baby. But I actually found it quite tricky to support myself in the bath. And so I moved to the toilet, and fortunately we had the bathroom really clean and everything, so and towels ready and stuff. And this time my husband actually delivered him. He held the head as he came out, whereas prior to having kids he was like, I'm just not going to be anywhere near that. But it completely changed him after he saw our first son being born. And yeah, I went to the hospital the next day. And they said that I didn't have any tearing or anything. It was all good in there, as my 23-month-old is currently pulling stuff out of drawers in my new office. My body also went back to the way it was very quickly. I'm currently 5 months postpartum, and my body's almost back to where it was. And one of the main reasons for me, which I can share more about, is because I really wanted to do that instant baby to my chest and then feeding. That is an important part of the initial stages of motherhood, to have an easy feeding experience. So with Theo, because I went to the hospital, we didn't have that. I held him straight away, but the actual latching and everything came a little bit further down the line, and I think it put off a few things, and I can share my experience with that as well if anyone's interested. And of course, this is not medical advice, it's just my experience, and sharing that there are lots of options out there, and that you can also give birth to your child on the toilet in a hospital, I've been told. But for me, I'm quite I don't like a lot of people around unless I specifically want them there. And when we first went to the hospital with Theo, my first son, there were a lot of people coming in and out of the room, and he just cried when someone would come in. He did not like it at all, and I just didn't want that experience with Theo. Instead, with Ollie, my grandma was here because Theo woke up, and yeah, she got to hold him from the get-go. And yeah, I have an amazing experience.